Now, turning to another issue, popular support from the Morrison government has lifted, with the latest Newspoll showing an uptick in the coalition's primary vote. The survey published today in The Australian shows that a boost for Scott Morrison's personal ratings. Dennis, let me put these numbers in black and white for everybody. The coalition's primary vote has lifted 1 point to 41%. Labor's primary vote is unchanged at 38%. The two-party preferred has tightened slightly, with the ALP still leading the coalition 51 to 49. And Scott Morrison has extended his lead over Anthony Albanese in the preferred PM stakes, ahead 56% to 30%. And we saw last week 9 papers do an in-depth research into the issues that people care about and will determine their vote. And that showed again the coalition having a healthy lead over Labor on those key issues. What do you make of all these results?
Rita, I think as I've been talking to Peter in the past, I think that the Australian electorate is most concerned with the greatest fear is catching COVID, and their greatest concern is losing their job as a result of the pandemic. These are the real issues that confront people day in and day out. And they are less concerned with some of the issues which create the chaff that interferes with the radar. And Anthony Albanese is very good at creating that chaff that interferes with the message, makes it very hard for the government to appear stable and on message. But what we actually see in these figures and in the previous figures you mentioned, the brutal reality is there's been very little change in voting intention for weeks and months now. 1 point in the primary vote and a similar move in the two-party preferred really just says that the coalition has its better support, stronger support than the ALP in primary vote. The simple fact is the Labor Party can't win on 38% primary vote. That's the brutal fact of it. And what we see, the real movement here in this poll today in The Australian, is the support for Prime Minister Scott Morrison, personally in his satisfaction ratings and as preferred Prime Minister against Anthony Albanese. I think what it demonstrates is that Scott Morrison, trying not to be distracted and sticking on message on COVID, dealing with the vaccine rollout and dealing with the economic recovery, is in his interest. I think when he starts to allow himself to be distracted or appear to be distracted by issues such as gender gaps and sexual attacks, it lowers voter satisfaction. But it's recovering. And I think the message here is that as long as he stays on message and Parliament's not sitting and looks all messy, then Scott Morrison comes out well in front of Anthony Albanese, and the coalition is still in an election-winning position.
And they had a solid week last week, didn't they? We saw them get on the front foot. They tore up the Belt and Road Initiative deals. They reversed the decision to strip medals from thousands of soldiers and announced a royal commission into veteran suicide. The PM is perhaps rediscovering his mojo and not just being reactive, like you said, on those fringe issues, and focusing on what coalition voters and the bulk of the Australian public care about.
Well, I think this is the key, Rita, because what we've seen, particularly since Peter Dutton has become Defence Minister, is a strong focus on conservative issues, ensuring that not everyone was stripped of their service medal within the SAS was an extremely important, popular and conservative decision to be made. Peter Dutton's, being up and out front about China. And I think that Scott Morrison, likewise, on the climate change front, has demonstrated that he's not going to be distracted, as he was on some of the other issues, on giving in to the climate change pressure that is being led by President Biden, etc. He is sticking to results, and that is what is the core of his success. results on controlling COVID, results on economic recovery, and results in getting down emissions while not damaging the economy. These are the core conservative values that the Prime Minister needs to concentrate on for the good of the country and for the good of his government.
Hear, hear. Dennis Shanahan, thank you so much for your insights again tonight.
Thanks, Rita.
Now, every Monday,